Some mornings, I lie in bed for a few extra minutes, not because I'm tired, but because I'm calculating. Rent. Groceries. The credit card minimum. My student loans. Car insurance. How long until I have to fill up the tank? Can I afford the dentist this month? It's like trying to build a house with sandbags full of holes. Every time I patch one, another springs a leak. I'm 27. I graduated 5 years ago with a degree in communications, thinking I'd find work in media or PR. I was optimistic, maybe even a little smug. I had internships, a few connections, a decent GPA. But nothing prepared me for the reality that even entry-level jobs wanted 3 years' experience, and most paid less than what it cost to live near them. I eventually settled for a role at a small digital marketing firm, where I do about 4 people's jobs for $41,000 a year. It was $39,000 last year. They gave me a raise to match inflation, but somehow, it never matches the real numbers in my life. When I say I live paycheck to paycheck, I mean I have spreadsheets titled "This Week's Survival Plan." I've learned to time my payments so that bills don't hit before direct deposits do. Groceries are calculated to the cent, chicken thighs instead of breasts, rice and beans instead of anything that comes prepackaged. I walk to work when the weather allows. I haven't seen a movie in a theater since before the pandemic. My social life is mostly memes and group chats, because going out costs more than I can justify. I live in a studio apartment the size of a generous closet. The ceiling leaks when it rains. I don't complain because I'm scared the landlord will raise the rent to cover repairs. Everything in this city is rising: food, utilities, public transit, rent, but somehow my income stays the same, like it's been cryogenically frozen. I look at the job listings sometimes, hoping for something better, but it's all the same roles with different buzzwords, and barely any more pay. Plus, who has time to interview when working 50 hours a week? The hardest part isn't the work or the sacrifices. It's the feeling that I did everything right and still ended up here. I followed the rules. I went to college, took on debt, worked unpaid internships, and built a resume. I networked, smiled, said yes to extra projects, and learned new skills on my own dime. I did it all, and still, I can't breathe without calculating how much the air might cost me. The pressure never lets up. It's there when I'm choosing whether to replace my broken toaster or live without toast. It's there when I check my bank app before buying a coffee, when my heart skips a beat because I forgot the electric bill was due today. It's there when my friends talk about vacations or weddings, and I make up excuses because I can't afford a gift, let alone a plane ticket. It's even there in the background of every quiet moment, like a low, humming anxiety that never really shuts off. I used to want to travel. I dreamed of Japan, Iceland, Morocco. I thought I'd save for a year and go backpacking before I turned 30. Now, I just hope my car makes it through the winter. I wanted to write a novel, or at least short stories. But after a full day of writing for work, my brain is so fried I can't put together a paragraph for myself. I wanted a dog, maybe a place with a little porch. Those dreams have been shelved so long they're gathering dust, and I'm scared I'll forget what they felt like. I cope by compartmentalizing. I don't think about the big picture anymore. I focus on getting through the week, the day, the next meal. I find small joys: cheap flowers from the grocery store, a good podcast, hand-me-down books from a coworker. I call my mom more than I used to. Sometimes I cry on those calls, quietly, hoping she doesn't notice. She always does. She says, "You're doing your best, baby," and somehow that hurts more than anything. I know I'm not the only one. Most of my friends are in the same boat, silently drowning in debt, overworked and underpaid, unsure of how to climb out. We don't talk about it openly, we joke, we share memes, we rage tweet about capitalism, but underneath, there's a shared grief. A mourning for the lives we thought we'd have by now. A slow acceptance that things may never get better, not really. That the system isn't broken, it's working exactly as it was designed to. Just not for us. Still, I hold on to tiny threads of hope. Not grand dreams, just fragments. A better job. A stable savings account. A few quiet months without a financial emergency. The possibility of a future where I can make choices from a place of desire, not desperation. I don't need to be rich. I just want to stop surviving and start living. I want to open my eyes in the morning and think about something other than money. I want to believe that this season of scarcity will pass, that I'm not stuck forever. That even if I can't see the path forward yet, one day I will. And maybe, just maybe, I'll remember what it feels like to dream again. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I remember a time when money felt like a distant worry, something I'd think about only when I wanted a new video game or a night out with friends. Back then, I thought adulthood meant freedom, the ability to make choices without always asking permission or worrying about bills. But now, in my mid-20s, that freedom feels like an illusion, a story someone told me to make growing up sound less terrifying. The reality? It's a constant grind where every decision feels loaded, every choice a balancing act between survival and sacrifice. The economic pressure is relentless. It creeps into every corner of my life, shaping what I eat, where I go, how I spend my time. Rent is the biggest monster. Those four walls I call home swallow nearly half my paycheck each month. And it's not even a nice place, the heating barely works in winter, and the faucet's been dripping for months. But I'm stuck. Moving anywhere cheaper means giving up a safer neighborhood or a reasonable commute. Staying means tighter budgets, rationed electricity, and fewer small pleasures. Each morning, I wake up to a mental checklist: pay rent, cover utilities, buy groceries, make sure I have gas for work, and, if there's anything left, maybe put a few dollars into savings. Spoiler, there rarely is anything left. Prices keep rising faster than my income, as if the system is designed to squeeze every penny until there's nothing left. The cost of food, transportation, even basic toiletries climb steadily. I've stopped buying brand name anything. Instead, I hunt sales, clip coupons, and sometimes skip meals to stretch my limited dollars. It's exhausting. The constant math in my head: how much can I spend today without jeopardizing tomorrow? The uncertainty gnaws at me. Sometimes, it feels like I'm treading water in a sea of bills and debts, while the tide pulls harder and harder. And the worst part? Knowing I'm not alone. Everyone around me seems to be drowning too, but no one talks about it. We just smile and pretend we're fine, like that makes it easier to bear. Emotionally, it's a heavy weight. I feel trapped in a loop of stress and disappointment. There are days when anxiety sits so thick in my chest that it's hard to breathe, hard to focus on anything beyond the next expense due. The future, which once seemed bright and full of promise, now feels blurry and distant. What kind of life am I building when I can barely keep the lights on? I worry about my mental health. How long can I carry this without breaking? Coping becomes a survival skill. I cling to small routines: my morning coffee ritual, a weekly walk in the park, calls with friends who understand without judgment. These moments offer a brief escape, a reminder that I'm still human and not just a collection of bills and stress. Sometimes I binge-watch old TV shows or dive into books borrowed from the library, anything to forget the financial chaos for a little while. But those distractions are fragile and fleeting. There are dreams I've shelved indefinitely: traveling, going back to school, even something as simple as buying new clothes or upgrading my phone. Each dream feels like a luxury I can't afford. I thought by now I'd be saving for a future home, maybe starting a family, but the reality is starkly different. I'm barely holding on, and every month is a reminder that hope is a scarce resource. Yet, despite the weight, I try to hold on to hope. I remind myself that this phase isn't permanent. I look for opportunities to learn new skills or side gigs to supplement my income, even if they're exhausting. I save when I can, even if it's just a few dollars here and there, because I want to believe in a future where I'm not living paycheck to paycheck. I dream of a time when I can breathe easy, when I won't have to say no to life's little joys because of money. This story isn't just mine, it's a reflection of a generation navigating an unforgiving economy. It's about the invisible battle many of us fight daily, a battle not with lack of will or ambition but with a system that grows more expensive and unforgiving every day. If you're reading this and feeling the same pressure, know you're not alone. We're all doing our best to survive, to find meaning, and to keep dreaming, even when the odds feel stacked against us. Because, in the end, hope is what keeps me moving forward, one small step at a time. I never thought I'd feel this way at 26, like I'm constantly stuck in a loop where no matter how hard I push, the weight just gets heavier. It's like the world around me is speeding up, but my paycheck is standing still, maybe even shrinking a bit in its buying power. Every morning I wake up knowing I have to stretch what little I have just a bit further than the day before, and every night I fall asleep with that gnawing worry whispering, what if I can't make it this month? Growing up, I had dreams. Not wild fantasies, but simple hopes, to live in a small, cozy apartment with a little balcony where I could grow herbs and maybe a few flowers. To have enough saved so I could travel a bit, explore a city I've never been to, or visit friends without stress hanging over me. I pictured myself getting a stable job, maybe going back to school someday to finish what I started. I imagined all this as doable, like a natural next step. But somewhere along the way, reality began to crumble those visions, piece by piece. The economic environment we're living in doesn't help. Inflation feels like a slow-moving monster, sneaking into every corner of my budget. Rent goes up again, groceries cost more, the bus fare crept higher. Utilities have their own way of spiking unpredictably. It's exhausting watching the numbers climb on the bills while my paycheck stays stubbornly the same. Raises are rare, and when they come, they feel like drops in a vast ocean of expenses. There's a constant tug-of-war in my mind every day. Do I spend a little more on food that feels like a comfort? Or save that money in case something unexpected happens? Should I finally fix that leaking faucet that's been dripping for weeks, knowing a plumber's bill will hit hard, or keep ignoring it and risk the damage worsening? It's not just decisions about money, it's decisions about peace of mind, about preserving some semblance of normalcy. And often, the choice is between discomfort now or potential disaster later. I work a full-time job in retail, and it pays the bills, just barely. There's no room for extras, no spontaneous dinners out, no new clothes, no fun weekends away. Even my social life is budgeted carefully, because everything outside home means spending. I try to keep busy, not just to earn money but to keep my mind off the stress, but even that has limits. I feel physically tired all the time, like I'm running a race I can't win, but can't stop either. Sometimes, the exhaustion feels like it's seeping into my bones. Emotional well-being has taken a hit. There are moments I feel hopeless, like I'm trapped in a system designed to keep me moving but never moving forward. The frustration is raw, the feeling that I'm working hard but never getting ahead, like life's basic costs keep rising faster than I can keep pace. It's hard not to take it personally, even though I know it's systemic. Sometimes, that leads to shame or guilt, like I'm failing somehow, or I'm less capable because I can't make it work better. That's a lie I try to fight every day, but it creeps in during the quiet moments. I find small ways to cope. I've gotten really good at hunting for discounts and planning meals around sales. I batch cook meals on weekends so I'm not tempted by takeout. I've stopped buying coffee out, brewing at home instead. It's amazing how many tiny cuts add up to keep me afloat, but it's also draining. It feels like a full-time job just managing survival. I try to hold on to my creative side, journaling, writing poems, doodling, because those small escapes remind me there's more to life than numbers and bills. Yet, every time I consider my future, a dull ache settles in. The dreams I had, travel, education, a home of my own, feel so far away. I've had to postpone going back to school because I can't afford the tuition, the books, the time off work. I've pushed off therapy even though I know it would help my mental health, just because it's not essential when money is tight. Saving for a deposit on a place? A fantasy. Retirement? Laughable. It's like I'm stuck in this perpetual present where survival is the priority and future planning feels like a cruel joke. Sometimes I wonder what it would take to break free, getting a higher paying job, a sudden windfall, a radical change in the economy. But those thoughts also come with fear. What if I'm too far behind? What if things get worse? What if this is just how it's going to be? The uncertainty can be paralyzing. Despite it all, I still hold on to a sliver of hope. Hope that someday, maybe soon, I'll catch a break. Hope that the sacrifices I'm making now will mean something in the long run. I remind myself to celebrate the small wins, a month without overdrawing, finding a deal on something I needed, a kind word from a friend that makes me feel seen. These moments keep me going. If I could speak to someone who's never experienced this pressure, I'd want them to understand how isolating it feels. It's not just about money. It's about dignity, freedom, and the constant mental toll of feeling like you're stuck in place while life's costs spiral upward. It's about hoping for a future that feels more than just a distant dream. And to anyone else feeling this way, I'd say, you're not alone. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to be vulnerable. And it's okay to keep hoping, even when it's hard. Because hope, fragile as it is still the light that keeps me moving forward, one day at a time. I wake up every morning with this knot in my stomach. It's not the usual anxiety of facing a new day or the tiredness from a restless night. It's something heavier, a constant pressure that sits on my chest, reminding me that no matter how hard I work, it's never quite enough. The rent, the bills, groceries, and the little unexpected things, they all add up faster than my paycheck, and somehow, I'm always scrambling to fill the gap. I graduated college with hope, thinking that I'd find a decent job, pay off my student loans, and maybe even save up for a little apartment of my own someday. But the reality is so different. I'm working full-time, sometimes extra shifts, but my income barely keeps pace with inflation, let alone my growing expenses. Every month feels like a race against an invisible clock that speeds up just as I think I'm catching my breath. Take last week, for example. I needed to buy a new phone charger. My old one stopped working suddenly, and without it, I'm practically cut off from everything, work emails, social connections, even basic navigation. But when I looked at the price tag, I hesitated. $30. That's a small amount, right? But to me, $30 right now is a luxury. I ended up borrowing one from a coworker, feeling this strange mix of gratitude and shame. It's little things like this that chip away at my confidence. Sometimes, I wonder how I got here. How did everyday life become so difficult? Growing up, I never thought I'd be this worried about money. Sure, my family wasn't wealthy, but I had dreams, big dreams. I wanted to travel, start my own business, maybe even buy a house someday. But those dreams feel further away with each passing day. They've become this distant, blurry horizon I'm not sure I'll ever reach. The economic environment doesn't help. Every news headline talks about rising costs, food prices, housing, healthcare, all climbing steadily while wages stagnate. It's like the system is designed so expenses always outpace earnings. Sometimes I think, what's the point of working so hard if it doesn't get me any closer to security? The sense of being trapped is overwhelming. I try to cope the best I can. I've cut out all the extras, no more dinners out, no new clothes unless absolutely necessary, no subscriptions or streaming services. I meal prep to save money and avoid food waste. I use public transportation instead of rideshares. I'm always hunting for sales, coupons, anything to stretch my dollar further. But even with all that, it's still a tightrope walk every month. Emotionally, this constant financial strain wears on me. There are nights when I lie awake, worried about how I'll pay next month's rent or what I'll do if my car breaks down. The stress sometimes spirals into feelings of hopelessness and frustration. It's hard not to compare myself to others who seem to have it all figured out, the stable jobs, the savings, the freedom to enjoy life without constant worry. I know social media isn't real life, but it still stings. Yet, despite everything, I hold on to a quiet hope. I remind myself that this is just a season, that if I keep working, keep pushing, I might find a way out. I still dream, even if I've had to postpone many of my goals. I dream of traveling somewhere new, of having a place to call my own, of not feeling this constant tightness in my chest when I check my bank account. I dream of a future where money isn't a source of stress but a tool to live fully. Sometimes, I wonder what it would take to change the system that feels so rigged against people like me. How can expenses keep growing so fast while wages stay flat? Why does it feel like no matter how hard I work, I'm stuck in the same place? I don't have the answers. All I know is that I want to keep trying, for myself, for my peace of mind, and maybe one day, for a life that feels a little less trapped. Until then, I'll keep waking up with that knot in my stomach and doing what I can. Because giving up isn't really an option. It's exhausting, it's painful, but it's my reality, and I have to face it, one day at a time. Maybe that's enough for now. I never thought I'd find myself here, stuck in this endless loop of paycheck to paycheck, barely scraping by while everything around me seems to spiral faster than I can keep up. It's like I'm running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, but the scenery never changes. I'm a young adult, barely in my mid-20s, and already the weight of financial pressure feels like it's crushing every part of my life. Some days, I wake up with a knot in my stomach even before I open my eyes. The moment I see the numbers in my bank account, that creeping dread settles in. Rent is due in 5 days, utilities next week, groceries piling up every few days, and then the little things, the car insurance, the phone bill, the gas. It all adds up to a mountain I can't climb. I'm working 2 jobs, both barely paying enough to cover the basics, but no matter how many hours I put in, it's never enough. The economic environment right now is brutal. Everything costs more than it did last year, groceries, gas, even my coffee habit, which I've had to cut back on painfully. Inflation is a word I hear on the news and in conversations, but its real meaning hits me every time I walk into a store and see price tags that make me flinch. It feels like the system is rigged, built to squeeze people like me dry while the rich keep getting richer. I'm not naive, I know that's how capitalism works, but knowing it doesn't make the stress any easier to bear. I remember when I first moved out on my own, full of hope and ambition. I had dreams, big ones. I wanted to travel, to go back to school, to maybe start a little side business selling art or crafts I love making. But those dreams have slowly been shoved to the back of my mind, replaced by a daily grind that feels like survival. I can't afford to think about the future when the present is so fragile. Everyday decisions have become battlegrounds. Should I buy the groceries I need now, or pay the electricity bill that's overdue? Should I fix the dent in my car or save that money for a doctor's visit I've been putting off? These choices weigh heavy, and the guilt is constant. Sometimes I feel like I'm failing myself, even though I know I'm doing everything I can. I see friends posting pictures of vacations or new apartments or career milestones, and a part of me wants to scream at the unfairness of it all. Emotionally, this pressure is exhausting. There are nights I lie awake, heart racing, wondering if I'll ever get out of this cycle. I hate how my self-worth feels tangled up in money, how I measure my value by my ability to pay bills on time, to not ask for help, to keep pretending I'm okay. But I'm not okay. The anxiety sneaks in, the helplessness, the shame. I'm scared of what the future holds, but I'm even more scared of staying trapped in this moment forever. To cope, I've had to find small pockets of relief wherever I can. Sometimes it's a long walk outside, just to breathe and clear my head. Other times, it's late-night calls with friends who understand, who remind me I'm not alone. I've started journaling again, writing down these feelings instead of letting them build inside. And when I'm feeling really overwhelmed, I let myself daydream about better days ahead, even if it feels like a fragile escape. I still hold on to hope, though it's quieter now. I hope for stability, maybe a job that pays a living wage, maybe affordable housing, maybe a community that supports each other instead of pushing us down. I dream about the day I can relax, not because the bills are paid, but because I've found a way to live without this constant fear. I want to believe that someday, I can revisit those old dreams and make them real again. But for now, I keep going. I take it one day, 1 hour, sometimes 1 minute at a time. I remind myself that even in this system that feels so overwhelming, my story isn't finished. I'm still here, still fighting. And maybe that's enough to hold on to, for now. I never thought I'd be this tired. Not just physically, though that's a part of it, but this deep, gnawing exhaustion that settles into your bones, the kind that comes from feeling like no matter how hard you push, you're stuck in place or, worse, slowly sinking. It's like the world is speeding ahead on a train I can't afford a ticket for, and I'm running alongside the tracks, desperate not to lose sight of the people moving forward. I'm 27, living in a city where rent is sky high, jobs feel unstable, and everything, from groceries to gas, seems to climb faster than my paycheck ever can. I've been working 2 part-time jobs since college ended, trying to piece together enough to cover the basics. But basics here are a luxury. The rent takes almost half of what I earn, leaving just enough for food, transportation, and the occasional utility bill. It's a tightrope walk every month, a nerve-wracking scramble to make numbers line up. And then, inevitably, something breaks, a phone, the heater, a medical bill, and the whole precarious balance collapses. The economic environment isn't just a backdrop to my story, it's a living, breathing force I feel pressing down on me every single day. Inflation is a phrase I used to hear on the news without really grasping its weight. Now, it's the reason my grocery bill went up by $30 in 1 month. It's why I can't switch to a better phone plan or start saving for something as simple as a new laptop. It's why I refuse to see the dentist, even though my toothache has lingered for months. Sometimes I sit on the edge of my bed, scrolling through job postings or rental listings, feeling that familiar pang of hopelessness. How am I supposed to build a life when every choice feels like a gamble? If I spend more on food, I might miss a utility payment. If I try to save, I'm sacrificing social time with friends, networking opportunities, or just some small comforts that make life bearable. The idea of a rainy day fund feels like a cruel joke. There's a sinking feeling that I'm trapped in a system designed to keep people like me just barely afloat. Expenses grow faster than my income, and no matter how many hours I put in, I can't catch up. Every promotion at work seems to come with more responsibility but not enough of a raise to match the cost of living. I've read stories about side hustles, investing, or moving to cheaper places, but those aren't easy options. Side hustles mean more exhaustion and less time for rest. Moving means uprooting a fragile support network and starting over in a new place that might not be any better. Emotionally, it's exhausting. There's a constant undercurrent of stress that bleeds into everything, my relationships, my mental health, even my sleep. Some nights, the anxiety is so bad I can't stop thinking about bills or what will happen if I lose one of my jobs. I feel guilty when I can't hang out with friends because I'm too worn out or because spending money on going out isn't an option. I'm scared that this financial pressure will erode who I am, that it will make me less hopeful, less ambitious, less able to dream. And yet, I do dream. I think about the career I once imagined, the apartment I wanted to decorate with plants and books, the trips I hoped to take. I dream about not having to check every expense twice or panic when an unexpected bill arrives. But those dreams have been postponed, indefinitely shelved. I remind myself it's temporary, that one day I'll be able to breathe again, but it's hard to believe when the months stretch into years. To cope, I've developed rituals and routines that give me some semblance of control. Meal prepping to save money and avoid wasting food. Using public libraries for free internet and entertainment. Connecting with friends over video calls instead of expensive outings. I try to celebrate small victories, making rent on time, getting through a tough week without breaking down, but sometimes it feels like those are just survival milestones, not achievements. I'm learning to be honest with myself about my limits, though that's hard in a culture that praises hustle and relentless ambition. It's okay to say no, to rest, to acknowledge that I'm doing the best I can under impossible circumstances. And I remind myself that my worth isn't measured by my bank account or my productivity. I don't know what the future holds. Part of me fears it will look like this, an endless cycle of financial strain with little relief. but part of me clings to hope. Hope that things will shift, maybe through a better job, a more stable economy, or a shift in how society values work and basic human needs. Hope that I'll find moments of joy despite the pressure. Hope that the dreams I've postponed will one day be more than just distant ideas. For now, I keep going. I hold on to the small things that make life bearable. I remind myself that even in the hardest seasons, there's strength in survival. And maybe, someday, survival will turn into thriving. Until then, I'm here, running alongside that speeding train, hoping to catch a ride. Sometimes I wonder how I ended up here, stuck in this endless loop where every month feels like walking a tightrope over a canyon. I'm 26 now, and I used to think that by this age, I'd have at least some breathing room financially. But reality's been a relentless teacher, proving me wrong every step of the way. It starts every morning with a small pit in my stomach. I open my email and glance at my bank balance before I even get out of bed. It's not so much a question of whether I have money as it is how much I can afford to spend today without tipping the scale into real trouble. I'm not sure when the fear of checking my balance became a daily routine, but it's one of those quiet moments that shape your whole day. The economy is this invisible force that grips me tight and refuses to let go. Rent has shot up again, almost 8% this year. Utilities aren't far behind. Groceries have become a strategic game, comparing prices, hunting for deals, skipping non-essentials like fresh fruit or specialty items I used to enjoy. Every trip to the store feels like a math test. I remind myself not to think about how much better it would be if wages just caught up with the rising cost of living, but the truth is, they haven't. My paycheck grows maybe a few percent each year, but bills and expenses sprint ahead like they're training for a marathon. It's like running in place, but the treadmill is speeding up. No matter how fast I move, I'm stuck. I live paycheck to paycheck, but more than that, I live on the edge of constant worry. Sometimes, I lie awake at night thinking about what happens if the car breaks down or if I get sick. I don't have a safety net, no family to fall back on, no extra savings beyond a few $100s. And every small emergency feels like a mountain I can't climb. There's this feeling of invisibility too. I don't talk about money much, even though it's always on my mind. It's not just pride. It's that when I do open up, people nod politely but quickly change the subject, as if money struggles are a personal failing instead of a system-wide problem. It makes me feel isolated, like I'm fighting this battle alone while everyone else moves on with their lives. The pressure bleeds into everything. Simple decisions become weighty, whether to grab a coffee or save the $3, whether to buy a new pair of shoes or patch the old ones. Even social invitations carry an extra layer of stress. I want to say yes, but sometimes I can't afford to. I say no a lot. I don't want people to think I'm boring or distant, but I also can't justify spending on things that don't feel essential. My mental health has taken hits I didn't expect. The constant stress leads to nights of restless sleep and mornings heavy with dread. Sometimes, I feel paralyzed, overwhelmed by the gap between where I am and where I want to be. And yet, I keep going, because I have to. There's no other choice. To cope, I've developed routines. Budget spreadsheets, mental reminders, rigid meal plans, and the occasional small reward to keep me sane, a cheap dinner out once a month, a new book from the library. I've gotten creative too, learning to cook from scratch, picking up second-hand clothes, even growing a few herbs in my apartment window. These little things help me hold on to some semblance of control. I remind myself that this isn't forever, though it often feels like it will be. I still have dreams, but many have been postponed or reshaped by reality. I once wanted to travel, really travel, not just a weekend getaway. See the world, meet new people, learn new languages. That dream now seems distant, like a luxury I can't afford. I hope to own a home someday, maybe start a family. But every month the rent goes up, the down payment slips further away. I've had to let go of those timelines, learn to be patient with dreams that no longer fit neatly into the years I imagined. Sometimes it hurts, feeling like life's milestones are slipping through my fingers. Yet, beneath the exhaustion and anxiety, there's a stubborn thread of hope. I believe in a future where things improve. Not just for me, but for others like me who feel caught in this relentless cycle. I want to be someone who breaks free, not just financially, but emotionally too. To build a life where money isn't the constant source of fear, but a tool to support my happiness and growth. I try to hold on to the small victories, like paying off a credit card balance or making it through the month without borrowing from anyone. These moments matter. They remind me that I'm not powerless, even when it feels like the world is stacked against me. This story isn't about blame or anger, though sometimes those feelings creep in. It's about reality, an honest look at what it means to live with ongoing financial pressure in a world where expenses keep growing faster than income. It's about the daily grind, the invisible battles, and the quiet hope that one day, things might change. For now, I keep waking up, facing the numbers, and doing what I can to survive, and maybe, just maybe, to thrive. It's been a while since I really sat down and thought about how this all started, or, maybe more honestly, how it never seems to stop. I'm 26, working full-time, juggling a couple of side gigs, and yet, the money never feels like enough. Every month feels like a test I'm failing, even though I keep showing up, doing my best, making sacrifices. There's this invisible weight that sits on my chest most days, a pressure that doesn't let me breathe freely. When I was younger, I had big dreams. I imagined finishing college without drowning in debt, maybe moving to a city where I could chase a career that excited me. I thought I'd be able to travel a bit, save some money, maybe even start thinking about a home of my own one day. But life didn't really work that way. The moment I graduated, the bills hit me like a tidal wave. Rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, phone bills, it all adds up so fast. And no matter how many hours I work, the paycheck just doesn't stretch like it used to. I live in a city where rents have skyrocketed over the past few years. Every lease renewal comes with a higher price tag. Utilities and internet keep creeping up, groceries feel like they're getting more expensive every week, and gas prices? Don't get me started. It's exhausting. I try to budget, I swear I do. But it's like the numbers are playing a game with me, one I can't win. I have to choose, do I buy the slightly cheaper food that's not as healthy, or pay for the gym membership that keeps my mental health from spiraling? Do I take the bus and spend 2 hours commuting, or spend extra on gas and save that time but blow through more money? It feels like this system is designed to keep people like me trapped, constantly scrambling, never quite catching up. The cost of living grows faster than my income. Inflation eats into every paycheck. I'm stuck in a cycle where expenses multiply but raises barely cover a fraction of those increases. I'm constantly putting off payments, hoping I can catch up next month, only to fall behind again. Some nights, I lie awake staring at the ceiling, heart pounding, wondering how I'm going to pay for the unexpected car repair or the doctor's appointment I can't skip. The stress seeps into every corner of my life. It's not just the money, it's the feeling of powerlessness. Like I'm running on a treadmill that speeds up every time I try to slow down. I see friends buying cars, moving into nice apartments, traveling, saving for the future, and I'm stuck wondering how I'll afford a pair of new shoes or a night out that doesn't break the bank. Emotionally, it's exhausting. Sometimes I feel ashamed, like I should have figured it out better, or like I'm doing something wrong. But I know I'm not alone. So many people are in this boat. Yet, it still feels isolating, because nobody really talks about it openly. Admitting you're struggling financially can feel like admitting failure in a society that ties so much worth to money and success. To cope, I've developed these little survival strategies. I clip coupons, scour secondhand stores, and try to cook as many meals at home as possible, even when it means eating the same thing over and over. I set alarms to remind myself to check for discounts or flash sales, and I turn off lights in rooms I'm not using to save on electricity. I lean on friends for emotional support, even if I can't always join in on outings or dinners. Social media is a double-edged sword. Sometimes it's motivating to see others hustling, but often it just highlights how far behind I feel. I'm learning to celebrate small victories, a month where I managed to save $50 a week without overdrawing my bank account, getting a freelance gig that pays more than expected. These moments feel like little flickers of hope in a long, dark tunnel. But there's a part of me that's grieving the dreams I had to put on hold. I postponed traveling to Europe because the plane tickets cost more than my monthly rent. I delayed going back to school because tuition fees would mean even more debt. Even the idea of buying a home feels like a fantasy, something for later that keeps slipping further away. Sometimes I wonder if later will ever come. Still, I hold on to hope. I remind myself that this moment doesn't define my entire life. That maybe one day, if I keep grinding, keep learning, keep fighting, I can break free from this cycle. I dream of a time when money isn't a constant source of stress but a tool I control. When I can invest in myself without fear, when I can take a spontaneous trip without calculating every dollar, when I can rest without the background hum of anxiety about bills. It's not easy, and I don't have all the answers. But speaking this out loud, even if it's just here, feels like a small step toward reclaiming my peace. Maybe sharing my story helps someone else feel less alone, too. Because in the end, none of us should have to feel trapped by something as basic and vital as making ends meet. I'm still here. Still trying. Still hoping. And maybe that's enough for now. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I wake up every morning with this weight on my chest, like I've been punched by the invisible hand of the economy while I was asleep. It's not a single thing, but a constant pressure, a background noise in my mind that never quite goes silent. Bills, rent, groceries, car insurance, student loans, they're all these relentless waves crashing over me. And somehow, my paycheck feels like a leaky bucket trying to hold back a flood. The numbers don't add up, but I still have to make them work. That's the reality I live with, day in and day out. I'm in my mid-20s, supposedly in the prime of my life where everything should be expanding, my opportunities, my experiences, my freedom. Instead, I'm shrinking, boxed in by expenses that keep rising faster than my income can catch up. It's exhausting. Every month, I sit down with my bank app and budget spreadsheet, hoping to find some miracle that will magically fix the gap between what I earn and what I owe. But there's no magic, just math, and the math is merciless. It wasn't always like this. I remember when I graduated college, full of hope and excitement, thinking I'd soon be building a life that was mine to shape. I had dreams, traveling, buying my own place, maybe even starting a family someday. But those dreams feel so far away now, like distant stars flickering in a sky I'm not sure I can ever reach. Instead of planning trips or decorating an apartment, I'm planning how to stretch my grocery budget so I don't eat ramen noodles every night. I'm figuring out whether I can afford to replace the brakes on my car or if I have to delay it and risk breaking down somewhere. The job market doesn't help. I work full-time in a decent job, but it's not enough. Raises are rare and small, often not even keeping pace with inflation. When the cost of a gallon of milk jumps $1 but my paycheck only inches up by a few cents, it's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up. No matter how hard I move, I'm stuck in place. And the system, well, it feels designed to keep people like me barely afloat, to keep us chasing paychecks instead of dreams. Some days, I feel so defeated I can barely get out of bed. The anxiety creeps in quietly at first, a tightness in my stomach, a restless mind that won't shut off. Then it grows louder, whispering worries about what happens if I lose this job, or what I'll do if an unexpected expense hits. Medical bills, car repairs, emergencies, they lurk like shadows, ready to pull me under. And with no safety net, no cushion of savings to fall back on, I'm always one crisis away from disaster. But I keep going. Because what else can I do? I've learned to cope by cutting back wherever possible, which often means sacrificing things that once brought me joy. I stopped going out with friends as much because even a simple night out can cost too much, cover charges, drinks, transportation. Instead, I found solace in small, free things, long walks in the park, borrowing books from the library, watching sunsets. It's not the life I imagined, but it's something. I also try to hold on to hope, fragile as it is. I've started putting a little aside each month, just a few dollars, towards a future that feels distant but still possible. A future where I might have a home of my own, a career I'm proud of, maybe even financial breathing room. I dream about the day I can stop counting every cent, when I can buy groceries without checking the price twice, when I don't have to choose between filling my gas tank or paying a bill. But sometimes, that hope feels like a lie I tell myself to keep from breaking down completely. It's hard to believe in a better tomorrow when today is such a struggle. When the system feels rigged, when policies favor corporations over workers, when wages stagnate while prices soar, it's easy to feel invisible, like no one really sees the grinding reality beneath the surface. I don't want pity. I just want understanding, that the struggle is real and ongoing, that it's not just about bad choices or lack of effort. It's about a system that makes it nearly impossible for young people like me to get ahead, no matter how hard we work. And maybe, if enough of us speak up, things can change. Until then, I'll keep fighting in my own way, holding on to whatever hope I can find, and doing the best I can with what I have. Because surrendering is not an option. Not yet. Sometimes, I feel like I'm caught in a slow-moving storm, not the kind that rages for hours and then passes, but one that just keeps rolling in, day after day, wearing me down. It's this endless pressure, a grinding weight that no one really sees because it's not flashy or sudden. It's just constant. This is my story, though maybe it's a story many others live, too, about what it's like to navigate life when money is always slipping just beyond your grasp, and every choice feels like a trade-off you're losing. I'm 26. I work a full-time job, a steady 9 to 5, the kind most people say is stable. But stability doesn't feel real when the cost of everything, rent, groceries, bills, insurance, keeps climbing faster than I can earn. I live in a city where a one-bedroom apartment can easily swallow half of my paycheck. And utilities? Forget it. Heat in the winter means choosing between paying that or eating a little less. The economic environment is this looming beast that affects everything I do, from what I buy to how I spend my time, even down to how I breathe. Some mornings, I wake up with this pit in my stomach, that nagging feeling that no matter what I do, I'm not moving forward. My income is a slow trickle, while expenses roar like a flood. Inflation keeps eating away at whatever little I save, if I manage to save anything at all. And when unexpected costs hit, a car repair, a medical bill, or even replacing a phone, it's like being punched in the gut. I have to scramble to find where to cut back, which bill to delay, which meal to skip, and it's exhausting. The system feels rigged, designed to keep me running in place. I didn't always feel this way. I remember my dreams clearly, and it's heartbreaking how distant they feel now. I used to imagine owning a home, traveling, maybe even starting a small business someday. I thought my education and hard work would mean progress, not just survival. But now, those dreams seem like luxury items on a shelf I can only look at, not reach. Every day, I'm making decisions that chip away at my happiness and sometimes my dignity. Do I take public transit and risk being late, or pay for an Uber to avoid the stress? Do I eat out with friends or save that money for rent? Sometimes I hide from my friends because the question, "What are you doing this weekend?" feels like a test I can't pass without admitting I can't afford to do anything. Social life costs money, too, and feeling isolated is a heavy price to pay. I'm constantly calculating, comparing prices, clipping coupons, hunting sales, and delaying bigger purchases indefinitely. There's this mental load I carry that never goes away. It's like a background noise of anxiety that rises to a roar when bills come due. Even relaxing feels like a luxury, a night out, a movie, a simple treat. I often end the day drained, not just physically but emotionally, because the future feels so uncertain. Yet, I find little ways to cope. Sometimes it's talking to close friends who get it, sharing our struggles honestly. Other times it's immersing myself in books or podcasts, things that remind me there's more to life than the paycheck-to-bill cycle. I've started journaling, just pouring out my thoughts on paper, to keep myself grounded. It helps, in a small way, to name the pressure and not let it become this invisible monster growing in the shadows. I'm also trying to hold on to hope, even if it's fragile. I believe that this phase is temporary. I remind myself that this moment doesn't define my entire life. I'm learning skills, building connections, and someday, I hope to break free from this trap. The hope of stability, of a little breathing room, is what keeps me going. I want to believe that one day, I'll look back at this period not as a prison, but as the time I gathered strength. Financial pressure isn't just about numbers, it's about how it shapes the very texture of your life. It influences the joy you can find in simple moments, the risks you're willing to take, and the dreams you dare to dream. For now, I keep pushing through, one paycheck, one day, one small victory at a time, hoping for a horizon that feels a little less distant. Maybe this story will resonate with someone else feeling the same. And maybe together, through our honesty, we'll find ways to keep moving forward, even when the system feels like it's holding us back. Sometimes I wonder if anyone really understands what it feels like to live under this constant financial weight, the kind that isn't just a number on a bank statement, but a tightness in your chest, a fog in your mind, a background hum of stress you never fully escape. I'm 26, working a job I'm grateful to have but that barely keeps up with the rising cost of living. Every day, I wake up and face a spreadsheet in my head: rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, phone bill, loan payments, and try to stretch whatever money I have left after bills to cover the little things that make life bearable. It's a never-ending calculation, a balancing act where one wrong move sends the whole thing teetering. The world around me feels like it's speeding ahead, but I'm stuck in place. Prices climb faster than my paycheck grows, and no matter how hard I work or how tight I squeeze my budget, the gap only widens. It's not just the numbers, it's the feeling that the system is built to keep me running in place, like a hamster on a wheel. Expenses don't wait for me to catch up, they push forward with ruthless momentum. Every decision feels heavier because of this. Do I buy the $3 coffee and enjoy a small moment of joy, or do I skip it and save those dollars for something more necessary? Can I afford to fill up the tank now, or do I risk running low until payday? Sometimes, I postpone buying groceries, hoping I can get by on whatever's left in the pantry. I count out coins to pay for the bus, knowing that choosing to take an Uber might mean going hungry later. The hardest part is how this pressure wears down my emotional well-being. I catch myself getting irritable over tiny things, arguments with friends, delays at work, even just the noise in the apartment. It's like my patience reserves are running on empty. Sleep doesn't come easily either. I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, the same worry swirling in my mind: how will I pay rent next month? What if the car breaks down? When will I be able to stop sacrificing my own comfort to just survive? I remember when I was a kid, I had these big dreams. I wanted to travel, to see new places and meet new people. I wanted to go back to school someday, maybe get a master's degree or learn something creative. I imagined a life where I could take a day off without guilt, where I could afford to eat out or buy a new jacket without counting every dollar first. Those dreams feel like they belong to a different person now, someone who doesn't carry this constant financial anxiety like a shadow. Coping with this pressure is a daily struggle. I try to find small pockets of joy where I can, listening to music on my old headphones, going for walks in the park, catching up with friends who understand that I'm stretched thin but still want connection. I write sometimes, as a way to pour out everything bottled up inside, to remind myself that I'm still more than my bank balance. I look for free community events or online workshops to keep learning and growing, even if I can't afford formal classes right now. But there's also a quiet loneliness that comes with this. I hesitate to ask for help because I don't want to be a burden. I avoid social invitations that require spending money, which means sometimes I miss out on the very connections that could ease this burden. I feel caught in this cycle, needing support but afraid to show weakness, craving stability but trapped in unpredictability. What keeps me going is the hope that someday, things will change. Not just for me, but for everyone who's struggling quietly. I hope for a future where income isn't outpaced by basic living costs, where people don't have to sacrifice their dreams to keep a roof over their heads. I hope I'll find a way to break free from this financial squeeze, to save, to grow, to breathe easier. Until then, I take it one day at a time. I remind myself that surviving this is its own kind of strength. That even when it feels like the world's against me, I'm still here, still pushing forward, still dreaming. Because giving up on those dreams, that's the one thing I can't afford to do. This is what living under financial pressure really feels like, a mix of exhaustion and hope, frustration and resilience, sacrifice and the quiet belief that things can and will get better. It's a story I wish more people could hear, because maybe then we'd all see how urgent it is to build a system that works for everyone, not just the lucky few. Sometimes, when I lie awake at night, staring at the cracked ceiling of my small apartment, I wonder how I got here, feeling trapped in a loop that just never seems to break. It's not just the money itself, though that's always on my mind. It's the way the bills stack up like an avalanche, the rent creeping higher every year, the grocery prices soaring like they're racing some invisible finish line. And meanwhile, my paycheck inches forward, barely enough to keep pace, let alone get ahead. I'm 27 now, and it feels like I've been hustling nonstop since I graduated college. I wasn't lucky enough to land a high-paying job straight away, or ever, really. I work a few part-time gigs, trying to stitch together enough hours to cover rent, utilities, phone bills, and the essentials. And then there's the little emergencies, a broken phone screen, a doctor's visit, or the occasional surprise expense that throws everything off balance. It's like I'm always one step behind, scrambling to catch up, but the finish line keeps moving further away. Every day, I'm forced to make choices that feel like small betrayals against the future I imagined for myself. Do I buy groceries for the week or fill my tank so I can get to work? Do I pay the credit card bill or save what little I have for an unexpected expense? It's exhausting, this constant weighing of needs versus wants, survival versus comfort. I've stopped thinking in terms of what I want long term, now it's just about getting through today. The economic pressure isn't just about numbers. It bleeds into everything, my confidence, my relationships, my mental health. There are days I feel invisible, as if no one really understands how heavy this all is. When friends talk about their vacations, new cars, or weekend brunches, I smile but inside I'm aching, knowing I can't even afford a night out without counting pennies in advance. Sometimes I withdraw because it's easier than explaining or feeling like a failure. I'm trapped in a system where the cost of living grows faster than my income. It's like a cage with invisible bars, you see the outside world, but every attempt to break free just tightens the lock. The rent alone takes nearly half my paycheck. Health insurance? I pay out of pocket for the bare minimum. Student loans hover over me like a dark cloud, their minimum payments barely touching the principal. And saving? Forget it. That word feels like a cruel joke. To cope, I've gotten really good at cutting corners. Cooking from scratch, clipping coupons, turning down invitations, even skipping meals sometimes when money's really tight. I found small escapes in cheap pleasures, a walk in the park, library books, late-night playlists that help me breathe a little easier. I keep a journal, writing down my frustrations and fleeting hopes, trying to remind myself that I'm more than my bank balance. But the truth is, some dreams have been pushed further and further back. I used to want to travel, to see places beyond this city, to learn about the world, to feel free. Now, just paying rent and keeping food on the table is an achievement. I postpone thinking about buying a home, or even moving somewhere nicer. Even relationships feel complicated. How can I ask someone to share a future when I can barely provide a stable present? There's a quiet desperation that comes with this kind of financial pressure. It's not dramatic or loud, but it gnaws at you slowly, like an itch you can't reach. You start questioning yourself, am I doing enough? Am I failing somehow? It's hard not to compare yourself to others when social media paints picture-perfect lives you feel miles away from. But I'm trying to be kind to myself, recognizing that this struggle isn't a reflection of my worth. Sometimes, I hold on to small sparks of hope. Maybe a better job will come along, or I'll find a way to upskill without adding more debt. Maybe the economy will stabilize, or the cost of living will slow down. Maybe I'll build a community of people who understand this pressure and can support each other. It's hard to hold on to hope when every day feels like treading water, but I remind myself that hope is what keeps me going. In moments of honesty, I admit that I'm scared. Scared that this financial squeeze will never loosen its grip, that I'll always be stuck just scraping by. Scared that the dreams I once held will fade completely. But I'm also determined. Determined to keep trying, to keep fighting for a life where money doesn't feel like an endless chain around my ankles. So I keep going, one paycheck, one day, one small victory at a time. Because even when it feels impossible, giving up isn't an option. Not yet. Not ever. It's late, almost midnight, and I'm sitting at my tiny kitchen table, the only source of light a dim bulb hanging overhead that buzzes softly. I've been here a while, sorting through bills and trying to map out the next few weeks. Each envelope, each statement feels like a heavy stone, weighing down not just my hands but my chest. It's a familiar feeling by now, this constant pressure that never lets up. The numbers don't add up, not really. My income is steady, but just barely, and the cost of everything else keeps climbing like it's on a runaway train. I'm 26, but some days it feels like I'm already decades older. I wake up, drag myself out of bed, and enter this loop that never ends: work, bills, groceries, rent, repeat. The rent alone has gone up twice in the past year, and my paycheck hasn't budged. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. I push myself harder, but I'm still stuck in the same place. I catch myself thinking, when will this get easier? Will it ever? The economy isn't just a distant headline, it's a living, breathing thing that touches every corner of my life. Gas prices shoot up, so even my weekly grocery runs feel like a luxury. Every trip to the store is a calculated risk. Do I buy the brand I like, or the cheaper alternative that I'm not sure will even taste as good? Food used to be a comfort, something I looked forward to after a long day. Now it's just fuel, and I find myself staring at shelves, comparing prices, calculating how far my last $20 can stretch. I think about the things I used to dream about. Traveling, for one. I had plans to see new places, meet new people, maybe even move to a city where the pace felt less suffocating. But those plans feel distant, almost like someone else's life. I had to postpone that dream, along with the idea of going back to school, or starting a side business, or even just saving enough to feel a little safe. Saving is a joke. If I put away anything, it's pennies, and it's always swallowed up the moment an unexpected bill appears: a car repair, a doctor's visit, a broken phone screen. There's this suffocating sense of being trapped, like the system itself is designed to keep me running in place. My income doesn't keep up with inflation, the cost of living rises faster than my paycheck. I'm caught in a grind that demands more and more, but gives less. I'm told to budget better, to work smarter, to be more disciplined, and I do. I cut cable, I cook at home, I skip nights out, I cancel subscriptions. Still, at the end of the month, the math just doesn't work. Some nights, the stress makes it hard to breathe. It creeps into my dreams and colors them gray. I worry about the future, about what kind of life I'm building when it feels like I'm just barely holding on to the present. Sometimes I ask myself, is this what adulthood is supposed to feel like? Is this the responsible life I was promised? I'm not even sure anymore. But amidst all of this, I find tiny ways to cope. I keep a journal, a place where I can be honest without judgment. I talk to a few close friends who understand the struggle, even if their lives look different from mine. I listen to music that matches my mood, sometimes soothing, sometimes angry. On rare days off, I take a walk in the park, reminding myself that the world outside this pressure cooker is still there, still breathing. These small moments feel like lifelines. I'm learning to accept that it's okay to feel overwhelmed, to admit that this is hard. I'm not failing, I'm surviving. That's the truth I cling to. Despite everything, I still hold on to hope. Hope that the economy will shift, that wages will rise, that opportunities will open. Hope that one day, I'll be able to put away enough money to stop living paycheck to paycheck. Hope that I can finally chase the dreams I had to put on hold, the travel, the education, the freedom to say yes to things because I can, not because I have to calculate every cost. Sometimes I imagine a future where I'm not defined by this struggle. Where I'm not just surviving, but thriving. Maybe that future is years away. Maybe it's harder to reach than I thought. But holding on to that hope makes the weight a little lighter, even if just for a moment. For now, I keep moving forward, one day at a time. Because the alternative, giving up, isn't an option. I may feel trapped in this system, but I refuse to let it define who I am or what I'm capable of. This is my story, messy and real, and I'm still writing it. I never imagined financial pressure would feel like a weight tied to my chest, dragging me down with each breath I take. But here I am, a young adult trying to keep my head above water, feeling like I'm sinking slowly into a tide I can't fight. Every morning, I wake up with a knot in my stomach, already anticipating the endless calculations and compromises the day will demand. I grew up believing that if you worked hard enough, things would fall into place. But the reality I'm living is far from that simple equation. The economy seems like a beast with an insatiable appetite, devouring any extra money I manage to earn. Rent creeps higher every year, groceries cost more with every visit to the store, and utilities, well, they just keep climbing, regardless of how little I use. Meanwhile, my paycheck stays stubbornly flat, or at best, inches forward at a pace that can't keep up. There's this relentless feeling of being trapped. Like I'm running on a treadmill that speeds up every time I think I'm close to catching up. The system feels rigged, expenses grow faster than my income, leaving me scrambling to cover basics, let alone think about saving. It's exhausting. Some days, the math feels cruelly simple, paycheck in, bills out, and what's left is barely enough for the essentials. Even that barely is generous. I've become an expert at cutting corners, buying cheaper groceries, canceling subscriptions I once enjoyed, and saying no to nights out with friends. I tell myself these sacrifices are temporary, but the months stack up, and the temporary feels like a permanent state of being. Emotional exhaustion sneaks in when I least expect it. It hits me during quiet moments, the evenings when I sit alone in my small apartment, staring at a stack of unopened bills, the cursor blinking on my budgeting app, or the news about inflation rising again. Anxiety and shame mingle in my chest, whispering that I'm failing, that I'm not doing enough. It's hard not to internalize these feelings, to believe that my struggles are somehow a reflection of my worth. The pressure affects more than just my bank account, it colors my relationships, too. I avoid inviting friends out because I can't afford it, and I lie to avoid disappointing them. I envy people who seem to live without this constant worry, who don't have to calculate every expense. Sometimes, I feel isolated, like I'm carrying this invisible burden alone. Coping has become an art form. I've started journaling to untangle the mess of thoughts in my head. I find small pockets of relief in cooking at home, even if it's just a simple meal. I walk outside when I feel overwhelmed, breathing in fresh air, reminding myself there's a world beyond my financial struggles. But these moments, though helpful, don't erase the underlying reality. Dreams I once held close have been pushed to the back burner. I wanted to travel, to explore new places and meet new people. I dreamed of going back to school to study something I'm passionate about. I imagined owning a home, or at least having a comfortable space where I felt secure. Now, those dreams seem like distant stars, beautiful but unreachable. Yet, even in the midst of all this, there's a flicker of hope. I remind myself that this chapter doesn't define my whole story. I look for small wins, a week where I manage to save a little, a day when the anxiety eases enough to sleep peacefully. I cling to the belief that change is possible, that the system can't hold me down forever. I wish people understood that financial struggle isn't just about numbers, it's about the constant mental load, the emotional toll, and the dreams deferred. I'm sharing this because it's real, and it's part of my life. Maybe by telling my story, I'll feel a little less alone. Maybe someone else will recognize their own struggles in these words. For now, I keep moving forward, one day at a time, hoping that someday, the tide will turn. Until then, I hold on to whatever strength I can find and remind myself that I'm more than my paycheck, more than my expenses, more than the sum of my financial worries. I'm still here, still fighting, still dreaming, quietly, persistently, and honestly. And maybe that's enough for today. I still remember the exact moment it hit me, the weight of it all, like a slow, sinking feeling that no pep talk or optimistic thought could shake off. I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at my bank app on my phone. The numbers didn't lie. My paycheck, which I'd counted on to cover rent, bills, groceries, and the occasional treat, was shrinking in value even though the digits stayed the same. The cost of living kept climbing, but my income stayed stubbornly flat. I felt like I was running on a treadmill that only sped up, but I wasn't moving forward. Every day feels like a balancing act on a thin, fraying wire. I wake up thinking about money before I even open my eyes. What bills are due? How much can I afford to spend on food? Should I skip buying that coffee today? It's exhausting. I find myself constantly calculating, adjusting, cutting corners. I've become painfully aware of the small luxuries I used to take for granted: a night out with friends, a new pair of shoes, a weekend trip. Those things feel like distant memories now, dreams I tucked away in a box I don't dare open. The economic environment is this invisible, crushing force that shapes everything about my life. Inflation keeps pushing prices higher: rent, utilities, groceries, and it feels like no matter how hard I work, the money just doesn't stretch far enough. I hold down a full-time job, sometimes two, but my paycheck barely keeps up with the rising tide of expenses. I've heard people say, just budget better, but it's not that simple. I track every cent. I cut out all non-essentials. I've stopped eating out altogether and cook meals that are as cheap as possible without sacrificing my health. But the bills don't care about my sacrifices. They keep coming, and sometimes it feels like the more I give, the less I have left. Emotionally, it's a roller coaster that never stops. There's anxiety, constant, nagging, like a low hum in the background of my brain. It wakes me up at night, twisting my stomach. Will I have enough to pay rent next month? What if my car breaks down? How do I explain to my family that I can't visit this summer because I just can't afford it? Then there's the shame. I feel ashamed that I can't just make it work the way some people seem to. I'm embarrassed when friends ask about my weekend plans, and I have to say, nothing really, because there's nothing I can afford. I sometimes lie about why I'm skipping events, saying I'm busy or tired, because I don't want to admit that money is the real reason. The isolation is real and heavy. Some days, I wonder if I'm just broken or lazy, but deep down, I know the problem isn't me, it's the system. It feels rigged, like a game where the rules are always changing and favor those already ahead. The cost of housing keeps skyrocketing, wages stagnate, and opportunities for upward mobility feel like mirages on the horizon. I see stories in the news about people struggling just like me, and it's comforting and terrifying at the same time. I'm not alone, but that doesn't make the pressure any lighter. To cope, I've developed this mental armor, mostly routines and small rituals to hold myself together. I keep a detailed spreadsheet of my expenses. It gives me a strange sense of control, even when the numbers are bleak. I find little pockets of joy in simple things: a walk in the park, a phone call with a friend, a good book borrowed from the library. I try to remind myself that this phase isn't forever, though sometimes it feels like it will be. Therapy helps too. Being able to talk honestly about my fears and frustrations, without feeling judged, is a lifeline. But the dreams I once held feel like they're on indefinite pause. I wanted to travel, to see new places, meet new people. I dreamed of owning a home, maybe starting a family someday. I wanted to take classes to switch careers or go back to school for something I loved. Now those dreams seem like luxury items I can't afford. I've learned to frame them as someday goals, hoping that someday the economy shifts, or I find a better paying job, or some unexpected break comes my way. It's hard not to feel like I'm sacrificing my future for the sake of just surviving the present. Sometimes I imagine what life would be like if things were different, if I could breathe without the constant financial pressure. I think about waking up without dread, having the freedom to say yes to opportunities, to build a life that feels stable and secure. I hope that one day, I'll look back on these years not as the ones that crushed me, but as the ones that taught me resilience and grit. Right now, though, it's a daily struggle. I keep moving forward because I have to, but every step feels heavy with the knowledge that the finish line keeps moving farther away. The system feels like a trap, one where expenses grow faster than income, where hopes are deferred and sometimes forgotten. But I hold on to the hope that persistence and a little luck might eventually tip the scales in my favor. Until then, I carry on, cautious, weary, but not yet defeated. I never thought I'd end up here, living paycheck to paycheck, watching my bank balance shrink as bills pile up like an endless avalanche. When I was a kid, I imagined my 20s would be this time of freedom, adventure, maybe even a little success. Instead, it feels like I'm trapped in a game where the rules are rigged, and the obstacles keep getting higher while my abilities stay the same. Every morning, I wake up with a pit in my stomach that's already halfway full of anxiety. It starts with the thought of money. How much do I have? How far will it stretch? Will I have enough for rent this month, or will I have to scramble again? The cost of everything keeps going up: groceries, rent, gas, utilities, while my paycheck has barely budged in years. My job pays enough to keep me afloat, but never enough to actually breathe or build a future. Sometimes I try to break down my expenses like a math problem. Rent is fixed, utilities fluctuate but never go down, groceries are a balancing act between what I need and what I can afford. Every dollar is a decision, every purchase a weigh-in. Do I eat well or eat cheaply? Do I buy the generic brand or go without? Do I fill up my car or risk running out on the highway? I've become an expert at these daily negotiations, but it wears me down. It feels like my whole life is about stretching a dollar until it screams. I don't talk about it much, how could I? People expect me to be stable, to have my life together by now. But on the inside, I'm crumbling. There's this constant pressure to pretend everything's okay, but my mental health takes a hit every time I have to say, no, I can't afford that, or, sorry, I'm busy working. Even my relationships suffer. I don't invite friends out because it's cheaper to stay home. I decline family gatherings that mean extra expenses. Loneliness creeps in, layered on top of the financial stress. It's exhausting and lonely, this cycle of constant worry and sacrifice. I find myself wondering what I'm missing out on: the nights out, the small trips, even just the little things that make life enjoyable. I'm postponing dreams I had before the weight of money settled on my shoulders. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond this city. I wanted to save for a place of my own, a home that felt safe and mine. Maybe even go back to school, finish a degree that could open doors. But each of those dreams feels like a luxury I can't afford, not now, maybe not ever. The economic environment feels like a storm cloud that follows me everywhere. Inflation rises, rent prices soar, job security feels like a myth, and wages don't keep up. It's like running on a treadmill that speeds up every month but doesn't move you forward. I'm stuck in a system that rewards those who already have, and punishes those trying to climb out. It's easy to blame myself sometimes, to think maybe I'm just not doing enough, but I know that's not true. I work hard, I hustle, but it's never enough to break free. Coping is its own challenge. I try to find moments of calm, long walks, reading, music, but even those can feel hollow when your mind is constantly on money. Sometimes I dream of what life could be without this burden, but the contrast only makes the weight heavier when I wake up. I've learned to be grateful for the small wins: a week without overdraft fees, a month where I didn't have to borrow from a friend, but gratitude is complicated. It's mixed with frustration, fatigue, and a deep longing for stability. There are times I feel ashamed, as if admitting these struggles makes me weak or less capable. But honesty with myself has been a kind of lifeline. Writing down what I feel, talking quietly to close friends, or even just acknowledging that I'm overwhelmed helps me carry on. I'm still holding on to hope, even if it's fragile, that someday things will change. That I'll find a way to breathe without the constant weight on my chest, to live a life where I don't have to count every cent, to rebuild those dreams that keep getting pushed to the side. This isn't just about money. It's about dignity, freedom, and the chance to live fully. I'm tired of feeling trapped, but I'm still here, still fighting, still dreaming. Maybe that's enough for now. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.